We're back at you with gloves off, and today we have Roque Vela. We're going to be touching base on his new project, Play More, talk a little bit about the city, talk a little bit about the ad valorem taxes that went up, the appraisals and all that good stuff, and we're just going to have fun. If anybody wants to call in, the number will be up on the screen. If those folks are not listening through Facebook, you guys can download our app, which is Border Indie. It'll be up there, and we'll have some good fun. How are we doing today?
Doing well. Good morning. Good to see you again, my friend. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of interesting things happening this time of the year, and of course we're in the middle of a runoff election, county elections, with the city elections upon us here pretty soon, and I got what I think is an exciting, and I know it feels like anyway, like there's a lot of people that are excited about the new project that we got, Play More. Should be open in a couple of months. So certainly by summer, and as much as people are expecting out of that project, I think they're going to be even more surprised and taken aback at just how much detail and how much thought and the attractions that we have. I mean, this is a project that my father and myself have been planning for, almost a decade. Sure. And to make sure we had the right location, the right attractions, the best of the best. And I'm excited. I'm excited about bringing that to Laredo. There's going to be so much cool stuff going in there that I think the people are going to be really, really surprised and happy with the product that we're bringing to them.
Totally awesome, and God bless you guys for doing that, because it's always saying that there's not enough stuff to do in Laredo.
Yeah. Well,
and now there's going to be one more added advantage to take the kids out there. And I remember playing more when I was a kid.
Yeah, as you know, so I was looking on Facebook last night, and there was that you grew up in Laredo page, and they put something about Play More on there, and yeah, I mean, Playmore was a name that's a brand already that's built here in Laredo, which is why we decided to go with that name. And it's gonna have a little bit of everything. There's just so much in there that literally anybody, regardless of age or gender, can go in there and have a good time. I mean, the laser tag itself, that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to. It's gonna be 2 stories. I don't know if you've ever played laser tag before, but it's really fun. It's active.
Sure.
You get to chase around your friends, strangers. The ropes course, the wall climbing, the rock climbing that got installed last week. I already tested that out. That was fun too. And of course the bowling, the arcades, gonna be huge. The restaurant is going to be right up there with the rest of these fine restaurants here in town as well. We're gonna have a really, really good different menu. So man, I mean, it's exciting, and you're right. People have been saying this for a long time. We've had to go to other communities to be able to experience something like this, and now it's right here in our backyard. So I hope and pray that the people in the community of Laredo supports it, because we spent. I mean, it's a $10 million investment, and believe me when I say we scraped every single penny together.
Oh, yeah, I believe
to make sure we're able to finance this thing.
I've seen some of the pictures that you've posted and you've shown, and it's an undertaking.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
And on top of that, to kind of parlay into some other stuff we're talking about, it's a $10 million investment. It's a huge investment that we're making in our community, and with that comes a lot of property taxes that we're going to have to pay. And I know people are upset right now about the increasing of our appraised values, and you start at what point is it too much? We're right on the heels of this water demand rate increase that we still have no explanation where exactly that money is going to. I know where it's going to, because I have an idea what they're thinking, and it's just going to the general fund. It's going to feed the general fund and to continue to pay for some of the mishaps and the misuse of our money. They're taking money from utilities and putting it into the general fund. And then on top of that, they get to say, oh, but we haven't raised taxes. We haven't raised taxes in 14 years. But yet they're increasing your fees. Our appraised value continues to go up. And, at what point do you say, it's just too much? And then on top of that, you have these school boards that continue to have bond sales, which is fine. You want to support that. It's for schools. But I mean, I know for me personally, after 2017, going through the year that I went through, and then with this investment, I got to be honest, I struggle to pay my property taxes.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I was scrambling to pay my property taxes.
Everybody's running around right now like a chicken without a head.
And then you have that, you know, you got your property taxes, and you finally get that figured out. You know, somehow we survive that, right? You have Christmas, then you have property taxes, and then you get to breathe a little bit, and then boom, IRS. You got to pay that too, man. So you know, there's a point where it's just, you know, it's just too much government. We're not getting any value for the money that we're giving these governments, whether it's federal, local, and you know, the people are tired of it, and you can see that. You know, that probably has a lot to do with why Trump got elected. You know, he was different. I'm you know, obviously on the record that I'm not a huge Trump supporter, but you know, there's something to be said as to why he won, and people just wanted to send a message like, hey, enough is enough. You know
what's going on, and I'll be straightforward and honest. People elected Trump because they were tired of the career politicians.
Yeah.
They were tired of the corruption that's around there, and nobody's doing anything about it. First was against the corruption within the Democratic Party. We see it all over the place.
Yeah.
Here was one of them, you know, and now we see the corruption within the FBI that's coming around. Then you have all the rhinos and some of the Republicans. There has to be a clean slate all the way across. And I think until we get term limits in place, we're not going to really do much. But I think that's something that we all need to start pushing for at a local level, all the way up to federal. We need term limits.
Yeah, I mean, I think term limits is a great idea, and any politician that is in it for the right reasons isn't going to have an issue with it. I mean, because frankly, if you're going to be an effective public servant, you only have so many years in you. Because after a while,
you get burned out.
You get burnt out, or if you're doing the right things, you're upsetting a lot of people, which is probably why he lasted one term. But you know, you're gonna have to ruffle some feathers, and after a while, it's like, you know what, we need somebody else new to come in here and bring in new ideas, bring in new energy, because it does wear you out. I mean, it's an exhausting, unthankless job, but that's part of it. I mean, you know it going into it, what to expect. I mean, you have an idea, and you don't really know until you live it, but you have an idea what it is that you're walking into. And yeah, I mean, I think term limits is a great idea, but you know, the idea that we're just going to kind of clean the whole thing from one day to the next.
That's not going to happen.
It's going to take a long process, but term limits is a really, really good start. The problem is the people that make the rules, I mean,
are in power.
Yeah, I mean, why would they do that? It's like the drug testing thing, you know, like we want everybody to have a drug test. Well, what about you guys? No, we don't need that.
That's exactly. You're absolutely correct. You know, you're absolutely correct. I mean, people are tired of the corruption, of the oppressive tactics. You've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen them here.
Yeah.
And people are tired of Webb County being that way, Laredo being that way. And people say, it doesn't happen. Well, wait a minute, it happened to my cousin now. Oh, now I believe you. You know, it's always been there.
Yeah, it's always been an issue.
That we have to stop. You know, that we have to stop.
But how do you stop it, Paul? I mean, you got to go out and vote. And you look at, you know, we get duped so easily. I mean, again, going back to my election, I mean, I went in there, I did everything, maybe not everything, but I fought the battles on behalf of the people. I drew that line in the sand and said, you know what, I'm representing the people. When somebody wanted $100 million of taxpayer money that I didn't think was a just deal, I took a stand against that. And then, you know, so because of that, they come after me, right? And the voters, they bought it. You know, they pulled the wool over their eyes. So at the end of the day, it's we have all the power to be able to make that change, but we choose not to.
You know, we've conveyed this in the past, and there's a lot of voter fraud or speculation of voter fraud.
Yeah, allegations.
And this happened here, and this guy over there. Now, after these past elections in March, Facebook was swamped with. Yeah. They were paying $30 for this vote here. They were paying $50 for a vote here, $100 for a vote here, and so on and so forth. Prove it. Call the FBI. Call the Secretary of State. Nobody wanted to step up to the plate. But I thank, and this goes out to our county judge, Tano Tijarina, for stepping up and saying, you know what? I want to look into this voter fraud. I'm calling the Secretary of State to look into this. What's going on? So, hey, A+, thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean,
for Tano, you know, for him stepping up and saying, you know, finally you have a public official that took a stand and said, you know what, we have way too many people talking about voter fraud. Let's clean it up.
I agree. I mean, it's a start, and when you have the head of the county taking the lead, that has something to say about it. But at the same time, a lot of times when we're talking about our appraised values, and I'm not gonna stray too far, because I would take that stance sometimes too. We have no control over the appraisal district. How do we control that as an elected official? You can't, because you don't. There's a couple of elected officials that are on the appraisal board.
Like who?
I couldn't tell you right now. I couldn't tell you. I'd be making up names if I told you right now. But there's a board of elected officials from the different entities, county, city, and school districts that form the board of appraisals. And we always say, well, it's out of our control. It's out of our control. But screw that. If you're the county judge, or if you're the mayor, like you're the mayor of the city of Laredo, if you're the county judge of Webb County, if you're a city council member, you are elected to voice our concerns and our opinions. So at the very least, you need to, just like the judge did with this voter fraud. Hey, there's a concern here. I want to call the Secretary of State. Well, you know what? The people are pissed off because our appraised values continue to skyrocket. Pick up the phone, make a statement like you made there. And this is to both, the county judge and the mayor and any other elected official for that matter. Like, it's got to stop. It's got to stop, and we got to spend our money wisely. We got to stop just throwing it into the wind. I mean, because at some point, the people will revolt. I mean, it's just too much.
And you're gonna see it two ways here. You see it with the voting. You ask folks, have you voted? No, why? It's always the same thing. So they're being ticked off in the sense that they're not going to vote. They're just going to step back and say, let others decide. Well, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it is.
Okay? And who do we pick? Understand?
Well, Paul, a lot of it too is you don't have people that want to run anymore. I mean, it's become such a dirty business, and you have these career politicians that have made it their family business, so to speak, that they're going to defend it by any means necessary. And you look at what happened to me during my election, where they just completely chopped me up into pieces and started digging into things that happened when I was 19 years old. Who wants to go through that? Who wants to leave their profitable business and their family to represent the people of Laredo just so that you can get exposed like that? Like, it's hard to find good people that want to run, and then you have these career politicians that just go, run these morally corrupt campaigns.
And then you have a group of disgruntled individuals here in Laredo that go after politicians.
Oh.
And wait a minute, you haven't done
the quote unquote watchdogs.
You haven't done diddly squat to clean up your backyard, and here you go, causing havoc throughout. Threatening and being over aggressive. I mean, wait a minute,
And they're part of the problem as well. And the thing is that people eat up this, transparency and ethics. And what I've learned since my time in politics, whenever you start hearing somebody being very adamant about ethics and transparency, those are red flags to me. Because to me, that kind of, shouldn't that be, like, if you're an elected official, like, that's what you should be doing. Like, you should be ethical and you should be transparent, and that's just part of the job. But when you constantly have to reinforce it, the ones that I've seen that constantly talk about it are the ones that are least ethical and least transparent. That's just been my experience. And when you start seeing stuff like that, and it's funny because now that I'm back in the private world, and trying, I'm running the business again on a day-to-day basis. I'm going through different contracts and different vendors that we have, and sometimes I'll get one that starts talking about ethics a lot, and he's just very, like, he brings it up 4, 5, 6 times, and I'm thinking, man, I can't help but think, man, the last time I heard somebody bring that up, multiple times, it turned out to be the exact opposite. And sure enough, it's starting to be the same thing. I ended up, I liked some of his products, so we entered into an agreement, and sure enough, can't deliver on what he says, doesn't answer phone calls anymore, and I was like, I should have gone with my gut instincts.
That's what happens, and folks are not, how can I put it, they don't have a word anymore.
They don't have a word. People just can't do what they say they're going to do. They just can't do it anymore.
A long time ago, a handshake was a contract.
Yeah. Now it's like, no. The fight. Look at the fight. Look what it says right here.
Yeah, you have to bring out this magnifying glass over there. Like the Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
At the end. Mm-hmm. No, that's what happens. People, men need to have their word again. We lost it somewhere. Be truthful. We have yet to be truthful. Since we were kids, and we were told tell the truth and whack us over the head with a ring and. So we're like, should I say the truth or I'm going to get another whack in the head? So I'm going to make them understand what the truth that they want to hear.
I'm going to make them believe my version of the truth.
Is. No, their version of the truth. Mm-hmm. So you tell them a version of the truth, which actually aligns with myself. So we grew up kind of lying to ourselves and not telling the truth. Hey, wake up and say the truth, man. Wake up and say, you know what? We're screwing up, folks.
We've let the weasels take control.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's this new alternate reality that we've allowed them to be able to control the narrative. Because they control the narrative now that's the reality. Perception's reality, right? And the perception has changed. So unfortunately, sometimes things need to get worse before they get better. I think we're starting to see that. It's funny. A lot of the things that some of the people that are in power now used to accuse us of doing, like me and Mike and Carlos, they're doing all these things. Well, now it's actually happening. Like they're actually raising the money, their promotional money, their travel money, the fees. I mean, you just see this outlandish spending that's actually going on, but there's no public outcry.
You're absolutely correct. They come in there and they're the ones that are doing the sign of the cross everywhere. Hallelujah, brother. Mm. And they're the worst ones, And they're the ones that all of a sudden were against exoticas and the titty bars and mami chulas and all this. And I remember this. I can remember. And they were against everything here in Laredo that was towards that type of business. Fine. A couple of years ago, I flew out to New Orleans for business. And we went to one of the bars there. And lo and behold, here are the couple of the ones that were the crusaders throwing dollars up at the girls up there. And I walked up to one of them and I said, hey, man, why don't you do that in Exoticas? And the guy turns around and goes, hey, Paul, what are you doing here?
That's funny.
It's okay in New Orleans, but not over there. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden you become the hated one. No, the truth, be truthful. Understand what I'm saying? What, you can't support the girls over there in Laredo, but you're going to support the girls over here in New Orleans?
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
That's funny.
But it's the truth, And we live in this made-up world, like you said. We believe the narrative that you've put up there. The Winnie the Pooh, and then you're like, it's not going to happen anymore. We went through 8 years of a dead calm. We're in the eye of the storm. And all of a sudden, the storm is coming, and the storm's going to get worse, and it's going to get pretty bad. It's going to get ugly real quick.
I tell the guys that I served with my first 2 years when I was in council, Narvaez, Mike, Carlos, I was like, you guys ruined me, man. You ruined me because when I was the only new council member. When I won, the council stayed intact except for me. The council member from going on term down. Yeah. So when I walked in there, I walked into this completely stable environment. Everything was running the way it should have been. I learned how city business should be run. I took the time to understand the budget, how the money flows, how you're able to leverage money. Those 2 years were just perfect. It was the way any new elected official should walk into that type of situation, to be able to learn how things run. And then the next 2 years was a complete chaos. I mean, just a total mess. We had people trying to run, pretending to know what they were doing, trying to run city business. I was always fighting, swimming upstream, trying to be able to keep the boat afloat, so to speak. And then it just all came crashing down. So here we are now, 2 years later, after I've lost, and you're starting to see just some of those molds kind of come out of the skin, if you will.
Yeah. I have faith in Laredo. I have faith. There's a lot of people now that are more awake than before. You have folks that are understanding what's up there. You're starting to see folks that never voice their opinions now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to go out there and vote any which way or not. But now that they're voicing their opinion, people are listening. Okay? You have individuals that were not involved in politics all of a sudden start stepping up and saying, you know what, we need to vote. We need to go out there and vote for this person. We're supporting this person. Let's take a look at this person, and so on and so forth. And that kind of energy, I hope, will turn that other around.
I mean,
think.
look,
You know?
we're a Democratic county, one of the few in Texas, as you know. There's supposed to be this blue wave coming. We'll see how much.
Unless it's the police that are going to come in there and arrest everybody and take them out. That's the only blue
We'll-
wave.
We'll see. Councilmember Benvadas like to say, the only way Texas is going to turn blue is if all the Democrats hold their breath and their face turns blue. You know, I don't know. I mean, I hope that Webb County understands the position that we're in. And it was unfortunate because in 2016 when I ran, I mean, we had a real opportunity to be able to take control and send a message to the special interest groups within Webb County saying, you know, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to allow you guys to mismanage our money anymore. And we missed that opportunity. And you know, it's unfortunate because District 5 is supposed to be one of the districts with the quote-unquote educated voters. And you know, we put in somebody who has more of an education, but you know, it's been 2 years now, and I think if you look at my tenure, what I've done, what I did there in 4 years, and what is going on now, the district's taking steps backward. The city as a whole is taking steps backward. And you know, a lot of it, it's not, our system isn't supposed to work this way because we have single member districts, but essentially District 5 decided the direction that the entire city was going to go because I was that swing vote. I was the one keeping that ship afloat again. And you know, once they decided to go a different direction, then the city went in an entirely different direction. And it's unfortunate at times. It's hard to watch, and you're seeing, you know, every year it's more and more mismanagement, more and more what's next, how are they going to hit us again. And this water demand fee is just you know, I couldn't be any more upset about it. There's just absolutely no explanation for it. No, there wasn't any warning. I'm pretty good at staying on top of city business. I had no idea it was coming. I opened up my bill, I saw it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And then of course my first instinct is, how is this money going to get spent? Where is it going to go? Knowing the answer already, there's been no explanation as to how it's going to be spent. Why we had to create this new fee, and you know, we're probably not going to get an explanation. And they can do that while they're there. They can do that, but they all need to come up for re-election, and it's important that the people understand exactly what's going on. Which ones are voting in certain directions, which ones are actually being truthful, which ones actually have the people's best interest in mind, and make educated decisions. Don't just read Facebook, don't just read the paper. The Laredo Morning sometimes is the absolute worst place to be able to get your news. And I call it the Laredo Morning sometimes because sometimes it's the truth, sometimes it's not.
I call them the Laredo Moron Times because they're really off.
It's an embarrassment. It's truly an embarrassment. I mean, honestly, you can get Facebook is probably more truthful with some of the stuff you see on there than the Laredo Morning Times.
No, you're absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. We get our news faster through Facebook than through the TV, and so on and so forth. Because that's just the way it is. Social media has taken that direction.
Yeah.
Now,
we have my friend Gordy Loca. She'll tell you what's going on in a split second.
I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of her and her stance and what she did. And hey, thumbs up, and thumbs up on Tejas for defending her.
Oh man, he did it outstanding. I was in the court.
And he did awesome.
Let me tell you what, they kicked the DA's ass, and it's not the DA, but the assistant DA's ass all over that courtroom. I mean, they did an outstanding job. But you know, when you're on the right side of things, it's a little bit easier.
Again,
to
the truth
defend
is
that
the truth,
position. Yeah.
and people forget they don't want to learn the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and just like when you get some kids coming into the school, do you really want to my school? Do you really want to learn how to fight? The first jab is going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
If you do not block and get hit in the face, either you know the little two dinglings that you have in the bottom, either they're going to go out that way or they're going to stay there and you're going to go forward. Plain and simple. That's just the way it is. Either you're going to get 4 tonsils or you're going to stand your ground. And I hate to say this, but parents don't want to understand this. You know, when you take a kid to go learn a pugilistic art, he's going to learn reality right off the bat, and he's going to learn respect. And he's going to be truthful. Do I really want to do this? Understand? And you know that. You did boxing. We both got a jab in the face.
Fight or flee.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's just the way it is.
I mean, you're either gonna, when you get hit in the face, you're either gonna cower down or you're gonna.
And there's a lot that coward, you know. There's a lot that just all of a sudden you'll turn around and
Yeah.
be like, "Eesh, you know what, Mom? You know, I want to play the Mike Tyson game in Sega, but not here." You know what I'm saying?
Do boxing on the Wii. On Wii, I want to box.
But you know, that's yeah. Be truthful, and I think that's what happened to you. You were being truthful, and people are not accepting the truth, and people live in this fairy tale narrative that exactly what you said.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's unfortunate. And you know, if you would see the council meetings sometimes, you would see my face. I mean, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Anybody who knows me knows that. If I don't like you, you're gonna know I don't like you. If I do like you, you're gonna know that I like you. And there's gonna be times when I'm gonna be kind of indifferent. I'm pretty easy to read. So there'd be times when some of the council members were saying some stuff. You know, they're going through their whole dog and pony show act, and I'm just looking at them, and you could see it in my face, like, are you seriously saying that right now? Like, I was just in awe that they could just lie through their teeth, and it got really difficult to deal with.
Maybe it was better for you not to be there. Maybe you don't have to deal with those.
I mean, it was unhealthy, Paul. It was. That those last 2 years were miserable. Just trying to fight, to do the right thing was just miserable. And a lot of times they would fight me just because it was something that I wanted to do. Like, you know, whether it was affordable housing. The council has absolutely no control of the Laredo Housing Authority. That complete board is appointed by the mayor. There was affordable housing wanted to do in District 5, and they were fighting me every single step of the way. They would get people to go to the city council to speak against me. As soon as I lost, I had been working on that project for 3 years. As soon as I lost, Paul, 2 months later, they break ground. Now they're up. So that tells me they weren't against the project. They were just against me, against my project. Mm-hmm. But now that, you know, once I was gone, then they're able to do what was right, because now, you know, it's not Roque's thing. And it was just, you know, that train of thought was just counterproductive. You know, there was several things that we didn't agree on, and that was fine. But, you know, if there was something that we agreed on, who cared? I didn't care if it was whomever's idea, whomever's project. Let's move forward. You
know, folks forget that once you get elected as a city councilman of Laredo, or any city, or an alderman, and you're from this district, it doesn't say Roque Vela, city districtman. You know what I'm saying?
No,
it says city councilman of Laredo, of district so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
City councilman of Laredo. You're there for Laredo, period. Once you're up there and you're part of those members, you're for the whole Laredo. You have to. And people don't do that. Many of them don't realize that, or it's too far above them. You know, it's kind of like that Concorde that used to fly way the hell up there in the sky. They don't realize that, and they only care about their own little district, which is fine. And who cares what else is going on? I'm only concerned about this. No, actually, you should have to be concerned about the city of Laredo.
Yeah, the decisions you're making impact the entire city, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, which is why I took a very proactive approach to projects in other districts. I mean, you look at Loop 20 right now. When I was there, we got the overpass on McPherson done.
Sure.
We got the overpass in International done. We got the overpass at Clark done. The access roads over the railroad tracks there on Clark as well that are being built right now. The flyover from the east side of Loop 20 to the west side of Loop 20 over I-35 to connect the loop. Sure. Those things were all done while I was there at the MPO. All of those projects were done. Some of them were already completed, some of them are in the middle of completion right now, but that work was started while I was there. I can almost guarantee you, Paul, and none of those projects are in District 5, by the way. The reason we couldn't do any projects like that in District 5 because there was right-of-way issues that the Killam zone, that we could not get right-of-way from them. They just weren't being, they weren't being cooperative. So we went to other areas to be able to, we already had the right-of-way to be able to get this infrastructure projects done. But I can all but guarantee you, Paul, that there will not be another project, another overpass project funded and started within the next 5 years, because they don't have any real interest to do that. They don't know how to be able to manage the money to do that. They'd rather use some of these contractors like Dannenbaum, who they completely threw under the bus. They'd rather use them as a political pawn and a jumping point to say, hey, look at me, I'm doing the right thing, I'm ethical, I'm transparent, these guys are bad. The reality is Dannenbaum was always coming to the table with projects on how to be able to, they're actually be able to put them together, number one, because that's what they do big transportation projects, and they would come with how they're going to get the money from TxDOT. So you would see these projects come forward, and they were never in agreement with Dannenbaum, because Dannenbaum would help out campaigns, but they wouldn't help out their campaigns, so they had a problem with that. Mm-hmm. So now what they want to do is they want to say, you know what, they were never helping my campaign, let's make them an example out of them, we get rid of them, so now who's going to do the work? Now we have no real big engineering firm in Webb County to be able to do these big projects that we need to get done, and who ends up suffering? The people of Laredo end up suffering. Now we're not going to now Loop 20 is still going to have stoplight after stoplight after stoplight, and there's not going to be any new projects done anytime soon because of it. And it's a travesty, just so that they can pat themselves in the back and look good and make it seem like they're trying to clean up City Hall when they've admitted as much that they had no real interest in cleaning up City Hall. I mean, they've admitted it to me in my face.
You're absolutely correct. Here's a question from Howard Ivy. He says, "What do you think
my
about
friend Howard? I could already know he's. I already know
the water source?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about the water source?"
You know, eventually there's going to have to be. There's always talk of a secondary water source, and I always took the stance. You have cities like San Antonio. San Antonio was trying to tap into our water source. As bad as people think that our water source situation is, you take a look around at some of the other communities. San Angelo, who's actually recycling their water. Think about that. San Antonio, they were trying to tap into our water source, the Rio Grande River. They were trying to tap into some groundwater over in Valverde County. Sure. That groundwater feeds into, it's underground water that ends up going into the Rio Grande, and we actually we teamed up with a couple different counties to pay for a study where we put dye in that groundwater, and then to be able to prove that it ended up in the Rio Grande. So if it ends up in the Rio Grande, that's a different source of water. San Antonio's not, that's controlled by, that's called surface water, that's controlled by the International Water Boundary Commission, that they can't tap into. So as soon as we proved that it's going into the Rio Grande, San Antonio couldn't touch that groundwater anymore. So sure. San Antonio was attacking our water source. So when I was there, my priority, okay, we have a water source right here, right now, that we need to protect. We need to make sure that we have these other communities that aren't going to touch our water source. And we were able to do that. Do we need a secondary water source? Yeah, we need to continue talking about it. And honestly, you know, Howard is very passionate and very adamant about that project. It's something that we need to talk about. It's something that we need to entertain. I know council, before I was there, entertained the idea and actually entered into some type of agreement with that entity that Howard represents. It's groundwater, and we're gonna have to run a pipe to it. It's gonna cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but you know, again, it comes back to how we spend our money. I mean, do we want to continue to feed our general fund? We're stealing. I shouldn't say stealing. That's a bad word. We're taking money from these different entities. The city has our general fund, which is what funds parks, public works, fire, public safety, which is fire and police, city council, executives, $180 million. And then you have these different companies, if you will. You have solid waste, picks up your trash. You have utilities, which is water. You have the bridge system, different company. And each one of those companies needs to kick back money into the general fund. From solid waste, we take, I think, $5 or $6 million. Utilities, we take like $9 to $10 million. Bridge system, we take $20 million every year into the general fund to be able to pay our bills. So all we're doing is, because we're mismanaging our money every single year, we're giving too much money to different entities. We're having to take this money that we could be using for something else.
Yeah.
Utilities, I mean, think about what we could do with $9 million a year. First of all, we could get rid of our fees, number one, lower our sewer rate, which if you look at your water bill, the majority of it's going to be your sewer. It's not the actual water.
Sure.
The water rate is actually pretty low. It's that sewer rate that's high. You cut that in half. And then, so now you're going to, that $9 million turns into, let's say, $6 or $7 million, or even $5 million. Now you take that $5 million and you start to entertain the idea of a secondary water source. And I'm not saying that Howard's idea is the right one. I'm not saying it's not. Frankly, I never really delved into it enough, because my concern when it came to water was protecting the water source that we had right now. But yeah, we need to look and enter into, see how much that's going to cost. Is it a feasible project? Is the water good enough? If it's not, what it's going to take to be able to make that water good enough and have that secondary water source? Because eventually, yeah, we will need it. We need to make sure that we have the water we need for the next 150, 200 years.
Yeah. That's one concern, because we're going to need that. What's the other concern? If you would go back in there now, have you ever entertained the idea? Because there's folks out there saying that you're going to run for mayor. There's folks saying that you're going to go back and try to take your seat. What does Roque Vela actually want? What do you want to go back in there and say, you know what, I'm going to try it again. Let me see if I can do it this way to kind of change. Or do you think that at this point in time, it's not the time to go in? How do you see the council? How do you see the whole thing?
That's a really good question, Paul. When I ran the first time, I was young, and there was a couple of things that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to extend Bartlett.
Sure.
I wanted to turn Bartlett Park into what it is now. I wanted to get those kids out of those rock fields in the base and give the Boys and Girls Club Flag Football League a good facility to be able to play in. And I wanted to make fiscally responsible decisions. It was literally that simple. I just wanted to serve my community, voice my opinion, and make sure that money was being spent in a fashion that it should be spent. And then, of course, once I got there, it turned into something else. It turned into me trying to fight the good fight, and keeping these forces out of City Hall and protecting the taxpayers' money. And I turned into somebody that stood for something else, if you will, which I had absolutely no intention of, but it turned into that. And now, going into it, I know exactly what I'd be getting into. I know exactly what would be expected of me. I know exactly the people that would be against me running. Have I entertained the idea? Yeah, I mean, I loved serving the people of Laredo. Mm-hmm. I really, really enjoyed what I did. But I also know what would come from that. I mean, how I would be attacked. Obviously, I mean, they showed how they would come after me with absolutely no remorse. And I'm in the middle of this huge project. I have two children. I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they saw me go through some really nasty stuff. So, I mean, I wake up every day with a different idea of what I'm going to do, to be quite honest. One day I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm tired of it. The next day I'm like, why do I want to get back into that? Just to have, 49% or 51% or 46% of the people absolutely hate me when I'm just trying to do the right thing. I don't know. I wish I could tell you, Paul. I wish I could have this epiphany one of these days, but it changes day to day. I know that I have a passion for this community. I know that I love this community. I know if it were as easy as just doing the job, like you didn't have to go through the whole running for office part of it, like just doing the job, I know I can do the job. I mean, there's very few people that I think that know how a city runs better than I do. I know exactly what I would need to do to be able to get that budget back in order, and it'll take time. But to the point, Paul, that honestly we can lower our water rates. We can get rid of some of these fees. We can even lower our property taxes, and it would take me a couple of years to be able to, a couple of budget cycles to get to that. But I could get to it. But then that would mean that there's a lot less hands in the pot, and people don't like. There's certain people that don't like that. They don't like the idea of, you're going to do what? You're going to take our $700 million budget to $650 million? We don't like that, because that's less money going around.
And that's a problem. And I think there's many just like you that want to go in there and face those battles, but very few are going to. And you showed it. You stood up there. You stood ground, and you lost. Now you're doing more now, I guess, on the outside, waking up people more. And what I'm getting at is people are not content. They removed the ex-city city manager, Carlos Villarreal.
Mm-hmm.
They removed him because they didn't like him. They didn't like his attitude. They did this or whatever. But he's a person that actually kept everything together.
Yeah, I mean,
and people might say, no, he was this, whatever. You know what? You guys go play a video game. And I'm serious. This guy kept the whole city alive. Why? Because you have way too many little different attitudes, a lot of different little, I call them all of the department heads, little mafiosi mob bosses in each one of them. And he was the only one that could tell him, hey, do it this way.
Well, it's because there's a lot of people that have a lot of different opinions. And after a while, and my personality is a lot like Carlos says, where after a while you're just like, look, everybody shut up.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to do it.
That's the way it has to be done.
And if you don't, then it's just a lot of talking. It's just talking.
Exactly right.
Talking.
Either you do the walk or you talk. And there's a lot of people here that talk. They love to talk left and right. But what I'm getting at is they put Horacio de Leon. Now I'm hearing that they want to remove him. I'm like, well, let him do his job, man.
Well, I think that's the issue, is he is doing his job.
Yeah, and now he's doing his job, and everybody else now is like, oh, we have to get rid of him. And I go, what? I mean, you wanted to get rid of Carlos, now you want to get rid of him. Now, what's your problem? We have a lot of folks running. We have, how many district councils are going to be running?
There's 4 up, 1 is termed out, and then you have the mayor's race, of course.
Okay.
District 6 is getting interesting. There's like 10 candidates of both sides. South side districts are up. They're up for re-election. And then you have, 2 of them are termed out. District 3 and District 6. Alex Bettis' district, and then Charlie Saniguel's district. Both termed out.
No. And it's interesting to see, because when you do your job here in the city of Laredo, somebody is going to want it. They can say you can do it better, and they're going to get rid of you. And they're going to put somebody else in there that's easier to control, easier to manipulate. And that's just the way it is. And I feel sorry for Horacio, because he's doing a hell of a job. He's doing a damn good job now, and all of a sudden now they're talking about removing him. And you're like, chingada, when is this going to stop?
I won't second that.
You know what I'm saying? But and what I'm saying is that he's doing his job.
Well, everyone has their opinion.
But that's that's the way I look at it. And everybody has an idea, and then nobody goes out to vote. This November, if we get 7,000, it's too much.
No, we'll get our 40,000.
You think so?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah, there'll be 40,000 to go out.
I doubt it.
There will.
You think so?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, usually during presidential years, there's like 50. There's a little bit of a downturn.
The presidential one, we got 30.
No, there was 10,000 just in District 5 alone.
No, we got 30.
There was 9,500 in District 5. There was more than, there was like 50.
I see the whole thing. Now, number one, the first thing I want right now is Tano to go ahead and go through with what he said. I want the Secretary of State to come down here and do an investigation. That's number one. And if they come down here to do an investigation, you might get people out there to vote.
I mean, I think that would build some public trust. People would be more comfortable and think, you know what, my vote's actually going to count. That would help a lot. But look, I think if just we start having our elected officials actually do what they say they're going to do, people would be satisfied with that. Like, stop talking. And I'm not saying that Donald's just talking.
No,
But I'm just saying, I'm
you-
talking in general terms. Like, there's just a lot of, just talk, and then nothing. And it's the recycle stuff. Like, they're still talking about the light synchronization project. Been talking about that since the mayor won. 4 years. It's been 4 years he's been talking about that, and that was his big. This is how I'm going to fix the traffic in Laredo. We're going to synchronize all the lights, and they're still talking about it. And every time we talk about it, because I'll hear people say it's like, oh, they're finally going to synchronize the lights, like, and kudos to them, because it's always new to somebody else, because that didn't hear it the first time. So they get to say, oh yeah, I'm working on synchronizing the lights. And even though I know he's been talking about that for 4 years, somebody that didn't know that saying, oh, this is what the mayor's doing. He's working on light synchronization. That's like, just do it already. It's not that hard. Sit in the MPO, allocate the money, make sure it gets done. Follow through with it. Instead of, saying, hey, we're going to do this, and then 8 months later, wait, hey, why haven't we done? You see, the problem is a lot of elected officials think that the work gets done at the city council meetings. Like, they'll show up to the city council meetings, they'll say, this is what I want, they'll get it through council, and then the council has spoken, go out and get it done. In theory, should that be how it works? Yeah, maybe, but it's not. You got to show up in between council meetings, those 2 weeks in between council meetings, follow up with everything, follow up with staff, continue to grind it out, make sure you're pushing things through the pipes to get done, which is why I was so successful in my 4 years, because I was in City Hall every single day, had meetings every single day, following through all my projects, making sure that they got done. And to the point where some of the other council members would get upset. It's like, hey, why is Roque getting all his projects done? How come Roque gets all the projects done? I'm getting nothing done. It's like, I'm there every day. During the budget cycle, I wouldn't just show up to the budget workshops. When staff was putting together the budget behind closed doors, I would show up in the meeting. And there is always money, just money flying. I mean, it's a $700 million budget, so there's money flying around literally through the whole room, just moving money everywhere. Well, all of a sudden, I'm the one elected official that's in the room, right? So I'm like, oh, well, we got $250,000. Well, why don't we put that $250,000 over here instead of over here? So now, because I'm actually there, being proactive and being part of the budget process behind the scenes, I have that much more influence on dictating where the money's going to go. So I was always able to funnel money to areas where I wanted it to go to be able to get my projects done. Whether it was funneling money to the animal shelter, or finding money to be able to pay for Bartlett, or money to be able to pay for drainage projects or Bartlett Park, whatever the case may be, because I was there, the early bird gets the worm, right? And
Sure. Do you have anybody that you know of is doing that right now?
Not that I know of, no. From what I understand, there's not too many, well, I shouldn't say that. There's one or two that spend time at City Hall, but for the most part, they just call in and ask for their concert tickets. I mean, that's the truth.
Sad.
Yeah, it is.
Here's a question, and if you don't run, who's running for the mayor, and who would you support?
I mean, you hear a couple of names. Obviously, Pete's going to run for re-election. I know Charlie has been entertaining the idea of running for mayor. There's going to be a couple of other people that, they like the novelty, they like the idea of running for mayor. Or are they actually going to have a chance to win? Probably not. So I think it comes down to those two, and it's kind of one of those, pick your poison. Which one do you want? I didn't necessarily get along with either one of them while I was there, and a lot of that was, because I was actually there to get a job done, and they were there for other reasons. So, I mean, I can't tell you which. I'm not ready. First of all, I'm not exactly ready to pull my name out of the hat. I'm not saying that I am going to run, but I'm not saying that I'm not either. I really don't know. I mean, and I know I'm running out of time to be able to make that decision. And there's a lot of people that call me and say, "Hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I tell them the same thing. As a matter of fact, I'll run into people in the streets, and I mean, I have this conversation at least twice a day. Literally, at least twice a day. I have, whether it's somebody I know or just somebody random on the street. They say, "Are you running for mayor?" And I said, if I can get $1 from every person that asks me if I'm running for mayor, I'd have enough money to be able to run the campaign. It's gotten to that point. And I tell them all the same thing: is I need to get my business up and running. I need to make sure that it's running smoothly. My parents are 74 years old. Mm-hmm. That there's going to be 3 different locations that we're going to have now in 2 different cities. I don't know if I can step away. I don't know that if it's the right thing to do for my family to step away. And I don't know that I'm emotionally or mentally ready to go through that grind again right now. And I know what will end up happening is if I were to somehow manage to win that election, I'm going to dedicate all my time to the city. As much as I say that I'm not going to, and I'm going to split my time between the businesses and the city, I know I won't. I know I'll end up at City Hall every day because I'm a City Hall junkie. That's what it's turned into. I'm like a recovering politician, and I just don't think it's the right thing for my family right now. But the closer it gets, the more people that show that they support me and they want me to run, the harder it is to say no. So I can't give you a definitive answer. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you no. I wish I could just say, "Paul, I'm not running," but I can't. I can't get to that answer just yet. Is that
That's honest.
Was that an answer?
I know.
I know that wasn't an answer, but
I know you better. I know exactly. And but
So,
what would you like to see in Laredo?
What would I like to see in Laredo? I'd like to see our appraised values stop going up. I'd like us to stop seeing these fees that we're seeing pop up every year, or at least one that's being entertained. I'd like our money to be spent where it needs to be spent. But I like the direction that we're going in. I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that, but if you think about where Laredo used to be and where Laredo is right now, we're headed in the right direction. It's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means. But despite the mismanagement of money, despite the selfishness, the selfish elected officials that we have, you still see this growth. It could be faster, it could be better, but Laredo is very resilient, and it's able to continue to grow. I like us to be able to diversify a little bit more and get away from import export. And now more than any time, that business is under attack. I mean, Trump is going to do something. I don't think it's going to be as bad as, I don't think it's going to be the worst case scenario, but there's going to be a change. We need to be able to find a way to diversify, and every elected official, especially the new ones, they always say it because that's what people want to hear, but it's not that easy. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop talking about it. We need to talk about
bringing businesses that will have jobs here.
Well, and the only way to be able to do it is to offer them abatements. And what a lot of people, and it's a tricky subject. Because
I'm going to jump in on that because what we're talking about goes with what Lacho. Good morning, Lacho. You said, Mr. Vela.
Good morning.
As a private business owner, I'm sure you know the importance of private enterprise in the community. Would you agree that Laredo is in need of major overhaul in the private sector employment?
Yeah, I don't know how much the public sector can affect that. I mean, the market is the market, and frankly, the public sector doesn't want to get too involved in that. I mean, our job is to be able to facilitate and encourage private investment, Now again, you need to be careful when you're doing that, when you're setting up these 380 deals and these tax abatement deals. What a lot of people don't know is, by law, you can only leverage 1/3 of your total value of your community. So the entire value of the city of Laredo is about $10 billion. So we can only leverage $3 billion worth of property taxes. Just on the Killam deal alone, that's $100 million. That's a $500 million deal that we leveraged. It goes $100 million. So that's what, 1/6 of the way. And then you start to take all these other 380 deals that we've done and put them together. We're probably about a fourth into that $3 billion that we're able to leverage. And what have we leveraged? I mean, we leveraged a development that has 1,700 homes. Are we getting anything that's going to change Laredo there? We're getting 1,701 homes. I always thought, whose home is that one? That 1,701. Who's going to live in that one? I think I have an idea. Anyway, that's not going to change Laredo. And we invested a large portion of what we're able to leverage in that development. Have we brought in anything that's going to change Laredo? No, we haven't. I mean, we need to take some of this land, and the unfortunate part is, you know, we only have a handful of major landowners, and you know, history has shown us that one of those landowners, the biggest landowner, is very difficult to work with, and to be able to get land from him to turn it into something that's going to literally change Laredo, the people of Laredo need to pay through the nose. And again, in 2016, when I was up for re-election, we had an opportunity to be able to send a message and saying, look, we agree with Roque and the way he's handling this, and we dropped the ball. We lost that battle, and because of that, we're in the situation that we're in right now. And it's easier said than done to say, hey, we need to overhaul the private sector. Yeah, we do. But the only way to be able to do that is to be able to enter into agreements that make sense with private landowners, and you know, we haven't been able to do that.
And private businesses as well.
Yeah, of course.
Big companies. We need to somehow bring in big companies too.
Well, again, the only way to be able to do that is to be able to enter into tax abatement deals and bundle it with land. But I mean, if you're going to bring in big business, then you need big land, right? I mean, that's obvious. Where are you going to get that big land? Well, we have the Killams. Dilworth, who is great to work with, by the way, but he's pretty much already developed everything. And then we have a couple landowners in the south, but everybody wants to be in the north for the most part, which leaves us with the Killams.
And how about towards North IH-35? Who owns that property over there? That way?
That would be Char, Ruthinger. They're a little bit far out. We have Uniroyal, that new huge company just bought there. But the problem is, because there's a certain big landowner that's controlling council right now, they don't necessarily, they want the biggest piece of the pie. So while we tried to work with, when I was there, we worked with the Uniroyal people. That's a company called Majestic, huge company that frankly we're lucky to have them. That took over that Uniroyal track, and they're developing it. And they didn't want a whole lot of stuff. They wanted some zone changes. They wanted some help with some infrastructure, real minor stuff. And you know, it wasn't my district, but I was there at the meetings when they would show up. So I'd say, I would tell staff, we're going to help them. We're going to make sure this goes through council. And now I'm not hearing too much about that, and I probably have an idea why. Because the Killams are saying, hey, we got our own land that we want to develop, and these guys are our competition. So we don't necessarily counsel. We don't want you lending them a helping hand, because we need to get ours first. And that's where we are. When you have one family controlling, dictating what direction council's going to go, then you're dictating what direction the city's going to go. It's that simple. That's where we're at right now. And in order to be able to get those big businesses, you need to have big land. And right now, there's just one family that has that. And in order to be able to get their hands on it to develop it, you're going to have to pay through the nose. It's just that simple. Mm-hmm. And the city of Laredo can't afford it. I mean, we gave away $100 million over the next 30 years of our future tax dollars. For what? For 1,700 homes.
And one.
And all that does is bring us more expenses. You know, people think that, oh, well, there's going to be more tax dollars. Well, yeah, but so going back to our general fund is $180 million, right? Our biggest expense in our general fund is public safety, fire and police, $120 million a year that we have to spend. How much do you think property tax brings in every year? Take a guess. How much money comes in? You have any idea? $70 million we bring in property tax. And it's not even a net $70 million because we sell a lot of bonds against that money. So we have to pay for those bonds, obviously, and that's usually costs us about $15 million a year. That's our note on those bonds. So it's really about $55 million that we bring in net of property taxes. Then you bring in our sales tax. Sales tax is about $40 million. So it's about $90 million net.
You have 120.
And we have our biggest expense is $120 million. And our two biggest revenue streams isn't enough to pay for that. That's a problem. As a businessman, if you walk in there and you say, yeah, this is what we got, you're gonna say, holy crap, we got a problem. And yet we're giving away future property tax money to get more of that, more of the same. Because when you get a home, all you're getting is one form of revenue, property taxes. You're not getting any sales tax, you're getting property taxes, that's it. And then now you have to hire more fire, you have to hire more police to be able to provide safety. You have parks that you're gonna have to be able to provide services to. Parks alone is $14 million impact to the general fund every year. You have public works. Public works have maintained your streets. We're gonna have to pay them to be able to maintain the streets. So, you know, was this a net gain for the people of Laredo? 1,701 homes to give away $100 million? Makes no sense, man. Makes no sense. So those are the things that upset me.
Well, the only way we can fix that is voting in good people. And again, we need to bring back the faith of the voter, and we have lost it, especially here in Webb County.
Well, you know, we need to not just vote for good people and not just vote for educated people. A lot of, you know, you get lost in the, oh, that person's educated, you know, they have more education. We need to vote for intelligent people. We need to vote for people that understand how to handle money. If you look up at that city council now, you have a lot of lawyers. That doesn't mean that they know how to handle budgets. That doesn't mean that they understand budgets. We need people that understand the struggles that the average person goes through. The struggles when that property tax is due at the end of the year, and what it takes to be able to scrape the money to pay for that. The struggles of having a payroll that you have to meet every other week. Those are the type of people that we need that understand what it is to be able to manage money and come up with those responsibilities on a month-to-month basis. We don't have that right now. Our council as a whole does not have that makeup, and you're starting to see the repercussions of that.
And the majority of if that's the case, it seems to me that they're being walked over or being pushed into something that they don't want to, or they just simply don't care.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hate to think that they don't care. I mean, I like to think that they went in there caring.
I think they all did.
That's changed or not over time. I don't know. I think that they don't understand exactly what they need to do to accomplish the greater good for the people of Laredo. And I think, yeah, you know, after I lost in the form that I lost, it changed the mindset of a lot of the council members that were there. You know, they stopped wanting to fight the good fight because they saw what happens to the guy when he fights the good fight. You know, got crucified, and so now, you know, now it seems like, man, we probably don't want to go down that road anymore because we saw what happened.
You know, you're absolutely correct. And I'm going to put it to you this way: I've been jotting down notes, and you've known that I've written several books, especially on the subject of survival and so on and so forth. And one of my students said, "Why don't you write a book on training people, literally training people, and what it takes to train and so on and so forth." And I've been jotting down notes since when I started. People that I consider mentors, you know. The philosophy behind it, the philosophy that kind of runs all around it. And again, it goes back to being truthful. You have to be truthful with yourself. How many of us are truthful? How many of us can live life and be happy living life? How many of us can really do that? How many of us can say, you know what, I just sold the city of Laredo, but you know what, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to say hallelujah, and tomorrow I'm the Christian I'm supposed to be, but I screwed everybody else in Laredo. How about that? You know, can you really live life that way? No. How truthful are you? You know what I'm saying? And that hypocrisy is in there. So I was looking for, and I've been playing around with the phrase, and I'm about 50% within the new book, and later on you'll get one. And I think the title is going to be just like that, you know, walk like a band dog and not a Shih Tzu. And that's exactly what you did. You walk like a band dog, and a band dog watches or guards over the house, the farm, and so on and so forth. And sometimes he gets into it with a couple of coyotes and comes back scratched up, but he's still the proud band dog, and that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
and you're not, and half of these guys in there might be the Shih Tzus, and that's the way it is, you know. Walk like a band dog and not the Shih Tzu. That's going to be the title for my new book, and that's basically the way it's going to be, you know. And
I appreciate that analogy.
You know what I'm saying? And people kind of just go right over. What are you talking about, band dog? What's
you know,
a
lot
dog? Is that a rock star?
Before I had won an elected official or an elected office, I was kind of thought, you know, my dad was a one-term commissioner, and I thought, you know, to be a one-term elected official, this kind of, that's a type of stigma that just, you know, it kind of says that you weren't very good at your job, right? And I think now it's like, you know, I lost for all the right reasons. I mean, I lost because I did it the way it was supposed to be, and I had a choice. I mean, I had a choice there towards the end where I could have given them what they wanted and served on my knees, but instead I chose to stand my ground and walk out with my head high on my feet. And you know, I'm able to walk around the community now, knowing that I did what was right, and that's all that. I mean, when I look myself in the mirror, I don't think, you know, there's you know, nobody's perfect, obviously, and I'm probably less perfect than most, but I can tell you that when I was there under my watch, I sided with the people every single time.
And that's what you were elected for. You were elected by we the people, and you stood up for that. And that right there is worth more than anything else.
Yeah.
Sometimes we win some, sometimes we lose some, and sometimes we need to understand that when do we pick up the marbles and walk off the game. And if there's
that's kind of where I'm at right now.
You know, and what am I going to do? What am I going to do in life? Do I really want to do this, or can I help out the community later on?
Mm-hmm.
Watch and learn a little bit more. I think that's where all this should go. And you know what? We have some good guys in there that are standing up.
Yeah, we do.
And
that's not all bad.
And I'm going to praise again Tano and you know, A+, period. You know, for what he did with going with the Secretary of State for the voter fraud. Hey, you know what? No, everybody talks about it. Everybody says this. Everybody says that. And he finally stood up and said, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. And that, to me, hats off, man.
Yeah, no, it's not all bad. I mean, there's certainly some people there that are fighting the good fight, but you can't. And not all city councilmen are bad. Don't get me wrong. They've all done their stuff. They've all done good for the parts of the community. They've all stood up. But sometimes we get led astray, and sometimes we have to get back into that road of why we were elected, who elected us. And that's really what it boils down to, is who actually elected you. Did the people elect you, or did a private company elect you? And if the private company elected you, well, then you're doing exactly what you were there for. Yeah.
If the people elected you, then, you know, and that's what everybody has to live with.
That's what it turns into, and yeah, look, the people just need to take more time to
analyze each candidate that's there, study who they are, look at the way they talk, look at where they're going, research. People do not research. You know what gets me? You got doctors and you got lawyers that come up and go, hey, Paul, who should we vote for? Oh shit, I don't know him. You know, you went to school with him. You know what I'm saying.
You know what kind of guy he is.
You know, who should we vote for? You know, Mickey Mouse, you know, and I've done that. I remember,
Written in Mickey Mouse.
I put in Mickey Mouse.
You were that guy.
And you know, and then all of a sudden it came out in the news. Oh, he wrote Mickey Mouse. And I'm like, oh,
I remember that.
But you know what I'm saying. So when there's two friends out there, I'm going to put Mickey Mouse. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for enlightening us.
Thanks for having me.
And a lot of us are ignorant about the facts of how the city works. And thank you for pointing out a couple of directions. It makes us understand a little bit more that guess what, you know, there's people in there that we need a place and they're going to watch over us.
I'm still waiting for one of them to come on and give us an explanation. What are the water rates for? What's the water rate increase for? Where's the money going? If you tell me that it's going to pave our streets and that's what it's going to be dedicated to, or you're not going to touch it for anything else, fine, I'm okay with that. That's actually an idea that I had, because we need to find a way to be able to pay for public works. But there's no explanation. They're just take it. And you're going to get it because you're going to like it, because we can do it. And that's when you start to when you have a government starting to think that way, there's a problem.
There's a problem. Again.
Man, thanks for having me.
For you guys out there, till next time, be safe.